Allison, Kayla, and Amy Dodd, welcome to Virginia is for Sports. Thanks so much for agreeing to join. I have to mention that we connected through Roger Lee, who is the father of Maya, and Maya and Allison swam together. I guess rec, Allison?
That was we swam club swim when we were younger together, and some rec before that too. So we were
Okay.
teammates for a while.
Did you ever compete against Maya?
Yes, we were teammates and we swam against each other too.
I want to ask you whether you swam faster than her more often than not. We won't go there. All right, cool. And we have your sister, Kayla, joining, and your mom, Amy. And for me, Allison, when you and I were talking, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, you talked about how your mom, Amy, was looking for advice for helping Kayla get into college athletics and in particular soccer. Is that fair?
Yes.
And mom was a baller too, right? Mom, what did you play in high school?
A little bit of basketball, and I ran track.
And I have to ask, when you say you ran track, were you mid-distance, sprinter?
Sprinter, 100 and 200.
Do you still have your high school's record for the 100?
I don't have any records. I was part, I think, of a relay at one point that was a record.
Nice.
But, yeah.
So you're fast.
I mean, I made it to regionals and things, so I wasn't awful.
That's more impressive than anything I did in track. That's for sure. Cool. All right. Well, so Allison, you have swam how many hours do you think in your lifetime so far?
Oh no, I don't know. I have to say during high school, it was definitely over 20 hours a week. It's probably 24 averaging a week, and then adding on some extra like strength stuff to that. So 24 hours a week for 4 years of high school, and then all the time before that. So
we're in the thousands of hours in the pool.
Yes.
And were you a self-motivated swimmer, or did you need a lot of coaching to get you motivated, or was it a good mix of the two?
I was pretty self-motivated when it came to like getting me to practice and everything. I really enjoyed like the presence of my teammates and my coaches. That made it more enjoyable. But like when it came down to like waking up early in the mornings or just getting to practice, I'd say it was a lot of self-driven.
Sound right, Mom? You didn't have to push her too much?
Completely. I may have had to go in her room in all the years, maybe twice, because she'd overslept through the alarm. Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
Because the deal was, when you're a parent getting up at 3:45 in the morning to take your kid to practice, if you have to fight with them to get them to practice, then I don't see much need in continuing down that road. So I always knew that the sacrifice was worth it for her to be motivated enough during those teenage years to get up and go, no matter the weather, no matter the hour. So,
yeah, the distress from not wanting to get up that early for your kid. Why would you ever fight that? And Allison, by the way, it's amazing that you had that sort of self-discipline and that drive, because most kids, and when I say most, I think I mean like 90+%. Well, no, I probably mean like 98, 99% of kids would not be that committed to any sort of endeavor like that. So that says a lot about you. What is it about swimming that you like so much?
I enjoy the challenge. Not that like other sports I didn't find challenging. I mean, they certainly were, but I liked how I could race for a team. But in my individual races, it was up to me how the end result was going to come out. And I enjoyed the challenge of practices. But yeah, I don't really know. I can't really tell you why I stuck with swimming. I'm definitely not the most graceful person on land, but I just like the challenge of swimming.
Yeah, my sort of joke that I say about me and swimming is, you can't breathe underwater, so why would you want to try anything like swimming? It just seems unnatural to me. Which and to that point, it seems really hard. But I guess you figure out how to breathe every couple of strokes, kind of thing. But that just seems really hard to me.
Yes, it's definitely pretty hard. I've just learned from like doing some lessons. For me, it's just I've been doing it for so long that the basics and stuff don't seem that hard. But like when you're teaching people to learn how to swim like that and get breathing patterns and the right stroke techniques, you realize like how almost unnatural it really is. And I don't know, it just helps create like an appreciation almost for it too.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, Kayla, soccer, sophomore in high school. Apparently you love soccer because you're traveling to do it. And we won't talk about why you don't play high school, but it's a new world for me. I guess you can play in college and never play for your high school. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me about travel soccer. What's that been like for you?
I play for a team called Richmond United, and it's all kids from like Williamsburg, Northern Virginia, and like Chesterfield, Lynchburg, all come together in one club, and we practice majority in like Richmond or like Glen Allen, Henrico, but we travel usually every weekend or every other weekend for games, but we practice Monday through Thursday for an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours if we go over. And it's in a very competitive league. We play very hard teams, very competitive. They're usually really tight scores, like 0-1, 1-1, 2-1. It's usually not a big blowout league.
So Richmond United, are you familiar with Richmond Kickers and then the Richmond Strikers?
Yes.
So I don't remember how many years ago, but they came together and decided to form a team named Richmond United. And so they're part of the ECNL, which is for females, the highest level of competition in the country.
Oh, wow.
You have ECNL and then you have the GA. But right now the ECNL is a larger conference than the GA. And Richmond United plays in the Mid-Atlantic Conference. So they play against teams out of Charlotte, Raleigh, us here, the Beach, and then several teams up in Northern Virginia.
And ECNL stands for?
Elite Club National League.
Okay. Nice. And it sounds like you're pulling kids to that team from most of the rest of the state. It sounds like Virginia Beach has a nice epicenter going. Northern Virginia has the same thing, but you guys are pulling kids from basically the rest of the state.
Yes. It is a very competitive conference, like I said, and Northern Virginia has a ton of teams, and it's extremely competitive up there. So girls who can't find a home up there, maybe don't like the environments up there, will come down to Richmond and try out for the team. So we're very much a mix from all across the state, and vice versa. There's teams up in Northern Virginia who have girls from Richmond. So
got it. Cool. That's really neat. You have those opportunities, especially to play at such a competitive level, because in school it wouldn't be that competitive, I imagine. Yeah. What position do you play, Kayla?
Goalkeeper.
You're a goalkeeper. Are you
Yes.
tall?
I like to think so. 5'8". Not as tall as Allison, but we're getting there.
All right. Well, let's get everybody's heights here real quickly. I'm 6'3". Allison, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
Okay. Mom?
5'8".
5'4.5".
You've held on to that half a long time. I'm guessing.
Dad is 6'5.5". So
Dad is not a short guy.
no, I'm the curve buster, as they say.
Yeah, my wife is 5'2". So your husband is 13 inches taller than you, and I'm 13 inches taller than my wife. Yeah, it's good. It's good to be tall, except when you're on planes. It's not so fun on planes. Otherwise, it's great. Cool. All right, Allison, tell me about your journey to go from high school swimmer to collegiate swimmer.
Yeah, so I was really lucky to have a club coach who had coached it at certain colleges, so he knew the recruiting process pretty well. So as a club swimmer, he helped me just kind of understand what would happen with the recruiting process. So I basically, how I started was I had my list of my best times, and I went through and I looked at the conference results. And tried to see where I would be able to score. And from there, I kind of looked at schools based on conference. And I knew that from the beginning I wanted to be on a team where I could score and contribute. So I kind of started that way, and I picked out a few schools that I would go and do their recruiting questionnaires. And then when the time came, June 15th, after my sophomore year, I'd done like a good bit of my own personal research, and I kind of just let them, like the college coaches that were interested in me and the ones I'd reached out to, kind of come find me at that point once the communication NCAA guidelines were or restrictions were lifted. And then from there, I had my list of questions and my criteria, and I would talk to coaches, and I would slowly start to eliminate the ones where I didn't really like the team environment, or the coach wasn't giving me the best vibes, or they didn't seem to have like the academic support or opportunities that I was looking for either. And some of the schools that I stayed with until the end of my process were some of the ones that I reached out to in the beginning, but Marshall was actually one that I didn't really have on my list. They reached out to me first, and I remember like getting my email from them, and I was like, West Virginia, I don't want to go out to West Virginia. Like, oh, and I remember my fall of my junior year, we had our homecoming dance, and this was right after like the COVID stuff was being lifted and everything, and it was our first really big school event in a while. But Marshall was having like a recruiting weekend that weekend, and I remember my mom telling me, like, I think you really need to go out there. Like, I know it's going to suck to skip homecoming, but going out to like just see Marshall would probably be really, really helpful. So I ended up doing that, and I'm really happy I did, because I mean, I go there now and I really love it. But I just did a lot of my own personal research, and I tried to ask college coaches the best questions that I could just to get a better sense of where I would fit in the best. And my times, like, they had that objective data. And sometimes I would send out some race videos just so they could see what kind of racer I was and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they had my times and they had my academic GPA, stuff like that were objective. And I think that makes the recruiting process for swimming a lot easier than other sports who it isn't based off of that objective of data.
Yeah, your times are your times, right? There's no interpretation of those times, especially relative to other folks in your peer group or looking to get into college and swimming at the collegiate level. It sounds like a lot of self-advocacy, a lot of your own research, and it sounds like recruiters maybe aren't as. And tell me if I'm wrong here. And I'm saying this generally. I'm applying what you experience in swimming maybe more generally than I should, but it feels like the recruiting world is not as active as, say, when your mom and I were in high school.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know there are some college coaches that they do have the time to go out to some meets and look for people, but that in itself is a little. I feel like they usually go with some people in mind that who they're going to watch. They're not really just like sitting there to find new people. And I'm sure that does happen along the way. I know that has happened to some of my teammates, actually, that the coach has been there to watch other people, and then he saw them swimming and that he ended up reaching out to them afterwards. But I don't think there are as many scouts as per se. I know like Kayla, her ECNL games, they have college scouts that like announce that they're at those games and everything. But for me, swimming wise, I didn't know coaches were at certain things, or they didn't have big stuff like that until I was already very much in the recruiting process.
When does the recruiting process start? When can you talk to colleges?
For sports like swimming and soccer, it's after the end of your sophomore year that
So
you can start.
it hasn't started for Kayla yet.
No,
June 15th.
they're allowed to reach out to you, or you're allowed to reach out to them, but you can't have like conversation, if that makes sense. Like it has to be one-sided. It's very tricky. But like I would get emails that were just like mass communication, you could tell, and it would just kind of be like introducing the school, like look forward to talking more after June 15th type situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rules are very not clear.
It seems like written by people that maybe don't fully understand what the experience is like. Maybe.
Yes. I was lucky enough that I had that club coach that knew the recruiting guidelines. So he was able to tell me what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. And that was really helpful. I think that definitely made the process a lot easier. But I know not other people are as lucky.
Yeah, you were lucky to have that in your process. You said you really like Marshall. What do you like about it?
I really like the community. So like the team, it's like a second family. And we say our main goals are have fun and be yourself, which kind of sounds a little silly. But I love how we are ourselves, but at the end of the day, they're driven, they're working hard at practice, they're working hard in their studies, like we're working hard just all the time. But we are also it's a very supportive community. And then even outside of the swim team, just athletics as a whole there is really special. There's a lot of support, and people care about each other. And then outside of athletics, like Huntington as a whole and Marshall as a whole, like it's just a very welcoming place. Like Marshall is very, very special. It's its own community. And I just didn't really experience that any other campus or town that I visited during my recruiting process. So that was really what drew me to Marshall and what makes me continue to love being out there.
Sounds like they've figured out some magic there. And Mom, that must be music to your ears.
It was, well, I knew from the first time I heard Ian, Marshall's head coach, on the phone with Allison, that there was a special connection there. You could just hear how genuine and what a truly good person he was. And I knew that was going to be important for Allison, which is why I pressed that junior day where I said, are we going to give up a chance to go see what Marshall's all about? I think homecoming was going to be on the outdoor blacktop, and they were going to have to stay inside little circles or something because it was still very much COVID. And when we got out there, just the personalities on the team, the coaching staff. But then that night, football wasn't in town that night, but they gave us tickets to go to the men's soccer game, which men's soccer out at Marshall is a very, very competitive thing. They are a very good team. And we got there, and you would have thought we were at a football game. I mean, families. It wasn't just college kids like what I was used to from going to college soccer games. It was families and little kids, and they had their herd attire on, and they had their little pom-poms, and it was standing room only. So it's just, you can tell how much the town of Huntington just loves Marshall. And it's a great community of people.
Yeah, that's I'm happy for both of you that Allison's at Marshall. That sounds great for the whole family, and Allison in particular. All right, Kayla, why goalie?
At first, so I started actually playing club and when I was around 7 or 8, and I played on the field some, but one game my coach was like, "Who wants to play in goal?" And I said, "I'll try it out for fun." And I don't know, from then I guess I just really liked it and couldn't really see myself anywhere else on the field except for in goal. And I've tried out a few other spots, but I just love being a goalkeeper. I like being able to make the saves.
And you're diving to save the ball, right? That's
Yeah. Sometimes even taking people out.
oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The downside is it's pretty physical, right? Diving is not an easy thing to do. Taking somebody out is not always an easy thing to do. But you're not running all over the field or the pitch,
No.
I guess I should say. So, but
No.
do you get a cardio benefit from playing goalie? I guess you do to some degree, right?
Some degree, yeah. Not the most. Like, I cannot run but for so long, which is kind of why goalkeeper suits me very well.
Right on. Have you and Allison talked about the path to playing soccer in college?
Yeah.
A little bit. I feel like I've helped her the most. I try to help her the most I can with the recruiting questionnaires and like the personal research side of things. But other than that, I feel like I can't make her have her own criteria or make her have certain criteria. Like that's something she's got to figure out on her own.
Yeah. When I first started, like, with email or, like, getting, like, the mass emails, she helped me with, like, what to send as my intro email, like, introducing who I am, how to know which, like, emails which, what to say, what type of questions to ask, and etc. Like, kind of the generic.
Soccer recruiting is a lot different than swimming in that, like Allison said, it's easy for a college coach to go onto the USA Swimming database and pull the top 100 times for 17-year-olds in the country in whatever event. With soccer, it's a lot more of putting yourself out there, which Richmond United does a great job of by having us involved in ECNL showcases, which this year they were in Nashville, down in like Lakewood Ranch, where IMG Academy is down in Florida.
Yep.
And then Dallas. And then we'll be out in Seattle later in June. But at those events, you've got hundreds upon hundreds of everything from D3 to D1, like top Florida State national champion level coaches in attendance there. So it's a lot of X or Twitter or whatever you call it, self-promotion, putting your schedule out there. It's a lot more, I say it's a lot more work for the soccer players outside of the sport than necessarily the swimmers.
No, that
Because
makes sense.
every goalkeeper, you know, there's a ton of goalkeepers. You get on tonight, you can find a bunch of goalkeepers putting their videos out there. So,
but there are stats for goalkeepers too, right? Shots on goals versus how many you stopped and how many you actually scored. I imagine
Yes.
those are pretty important stats.
yes.
Are there other stats that I'm missing for a goalie?
Like distribution, like if you connect this pass to a certain player, how far did this pass go?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
There's
nice.
a lot of technology involved that's helps coaches out.
All right. I imagine, well, actually, give me an example of that technology.
There's things, well, I think it's kind of, well, is it VIA?
Yeah, during my games and sometimes practices, we'll have this big video camera that can get a whole like view of the field, and it has an AI inside of it. Yeah, I guess that can like track which player is which, and it records what they do during the game, etc. And it like has their name, so it'll be like Kayla Dodd passed to so and so.
It's a little freaky. I'm feeling old.
Yes, yeah. And I only know the outer layer of it. I think there's a lot of depth to it. So
it probably can do some things that I'll never fathom in my lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So, Mom, you mentioned showcase. Please, Kayla, please help me understand the difference between a match and a showcase.
For a showcase, you play 3 games like the whole time you're there. Usually it's a 3-day showcase, so you'll play one on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And it's only 1 game per day, but a match, like for a tournament, you could have multiple games a day, and you would come out with a champion that would come out with like a medal, a trophy. But for showcases, you can have a winner, like whoever wins in their like the division. but you don't really get the hardware. Like you don't get a medal or a trophy. You're just there to like showcase in front of coaches, different teams.
So a tournament is about crowning a champion. A
Yes.
showcase is you're showcasing the individual soccer players, though. You're not
Yes.
showcasing the team, which just seems anti-team.
And it's kind of you're showcasing the team as well as the players, because you're showcasing, like when I think of, I know that the director of Richmond United shared with the girls that, even though they weren't necessarily playing the top talent, he was so proud of them because some of the very prestigious coaches had come up to him to say, the style of soccer that you are teaching as a club is so invigorating. Like, it's so nice to see real soccer being played and being taught. So I think there you're showcasing the club. Nice. And the coaching philosophies. There's lots of commentary on how much certain coaches love to watch her and her teammates and the coaching staff and the team culture. So I think you're seeing a lot of, there's also team showcasing as well as the player showcasing.
No, that's great, because my frame of reference for showcasing for high school athletes was baseball, and it just felt like it was like, let me show the world how great I am playing third base, and just didn't feel like a team sport. But your answer is great, gives me some faith that team sports have not entirely gone the way of individual.
No, and the coaching staff for them, and I think it's across the board with all the teams that are out there, they do a very good job of, Kayla is one of two goalkeepers on the team, and it's not, we're going to win the game. It's, Kayla, you're going to have your half. The other goalkeeper has her half. Same thing with the midfielders. If certain person has been sitting on the bench, then it's time for that person to come in and they get equal playing time as the others. So yeah, we're not just there to win. We're there to make sure everybody gets their fair share in front of the coaches and scouts.
No, that's really cool. Otherwise, I can't imagine you guys would want to do all that traveling and spending all that time and money, and Kayla plays for 3 minutes.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Allison, favorite swim stroke?
Oh, it changes all the time. I don't know. Right now, I'm really enjoying training freestyle and butterfly to a certain extent. I swim IM events, so my favorite stroke is getting to do all of them, which is, I can't say the same for most every other swimmer. Like, they have a certain stroke that they like to do and they like to train. But I love having the ability to swim all of them. But if I had to pick one right now, I'd probably say freestyle.
Is that your best stroke?
It's one of my best. In my IMs, it's usually one of my stronger legs of my race, either backstroke or freestyle. And then I also butterfly too. I would just say my weakest stroke is breaststroke. So
I'm saying this out of complete ignorance. Are there a total of 4 strokes and that's the IM?
Yes, a total of 4 strokes. You start with butterfly, and then you go on to backstroke, and then breaststroke, and then freestyle is usually the last.
Yeah, it's the only way. It's the only way to end an IM race. Yeah, no doubt. All right, Kayla, what question do you have for Allison right now? And this is not to benefit the two of you, because you certainly can talk without being recorded, but this is meant to help folks that maybe are younger siblings looking to play the college level. Is there a question? And I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit because that's kind of a tough question, but what would you ask her? I mean, your June 15th right around the corner.
It is.
Mom can help.
What do you think? What's the most?
What? Oh, goodness.
All right. Hey, while you're thinking, Kayla, I'm going to tell you, you have to go to England to watch English Premier League soccer match. It is the most. I've been to professional sports in this country across, I don't know, 6 or 7 different sports, and they're all great. And they're all energetic at the highest level, but there's nothing like an English Premier League soccer match. It's unbelievable energy. So did I give you enough time to think?
Yes. When you're deciding or picking which college you want to visit, how would you, if you could have one thing that would help you pick one to stand out the most, which one would it be, or would have the right fit?
Like after visiting, what I looked
Yes.
at, I would look at how the people interact. So not just obviously how the team interacts. That's really big. Are the freshmen talking to the seniors? Or are the freestyles talking to butterflyers? So in your case, do the goalies talk to the defenders or midfielders, or is everyone in their separate cliques? Do the coaches talk to do they seem to have a good relationship with the members on the team? Do the coaches get along well? Is the head coach paying attention to what you're doing? Like, how involved are they? And then also, just beyond the athletic side of things, you have to look at how the school itself, would you see yourself there not playing the sport? Which I think this really helped me a lot with my decision when it came down to it. I feel like my mom read this somewhere on some recruiting Facebook group or something, but it's really good advice. If everything went south and you had the sport no more and you were just forced to be a normal student at the school that you were going to, could you see yourself enjoying being there as just a student? Because at the end of the day, you are going to be a student athlete. And so if you just pay attention to those three things and how the people interact, I think that tells you a lot. And that definitely made my decision pretty clear in the end.
Kayla, that was a really good question. Thanks for asking. I know I put you on the spot there a little bit. I certainly was not trying to. And Allison, what a great answer. Kayla, I assume at some point you would have asked her that, especially given the fact that June 15th is almost here. Wow, that's man, I wish I was a sophomore in high school and got that sort of advice. That's really, really thoughtful from both of you. Mom, best thing about kids playing sports and maybe the most challenging thing about kids playing sports?
The best thing, I think, is just all of the life lessons and attributes that they have acquired and continue to acquire and develop from the sport. Just from the motivation to the goal setting to how to handle success, but even more importantly, how to handle the low times, the failures, the tenacity, the relationships. It's a lot of learning, a lot about how to deal with people, adults. I mean, as teenagers, how to manage adults as well as teenager to teenager. So I think that is probably the thing I've loved the most for both of them. Just watching them both become more confident, independent, successful young ladies. The most challenging is knowing, I would say, just helping them to balance it all. Helping them to not get overwhelmed with the pressure that is put on them in the sport, whether it's an internal pressure or an external pressure. How to try to find that good, I guess, work-life balance is what we say in our career, but for them, kind of that same work-life balance. I think that's probably been the most challenging piece, because it's easy to get swept up in the culture of youth athletics. It's easy to let the people around you, the other parents, sometimes the other coaches, their anxieties ramp up your own anxieties for your kid. So I think that's probably been the most challenging part.
Allison and Kayla, you have a very thoughtful mom, so I'm sure you've been appreciative for a long time about mom's guidance and mom's support for what you guys are doing. All right, last couple questions, one for Allison, one for Kayla. Allison, are you going to recruit Kayla heavily to come play soccer at Marshall?
I mean, if she wants to, I'll let her figure that out. Yeah, I don't really know what her recruiting criteria is, so if she cares to share it with me, and I think that it would be worth a shot, I think that'd be pretty cool to eventually go to the same school. We've actually never gone to the same school, so.
Is that because Chesterfield has specialties in their high schools? Yeah.
Yes.
And
then the age gap, yeah.
Kayla, will you give Marshall serious consideration?
I will. It's definitely grown. Each team has grown as time goes on. Because one year you can maybe not be the best, but somehow a different coach could come along and you somehow get amazing all of a sudden. So
I think she's very open-minded.
Yes.
As
Yeah.
you should be. At this stage,
Yeah.
you absolutely should be. Mom, do you want her closer to home?
I would love to have her where I could drive and catch as many games as I can. But I also know that I want her to have what Allison has at Marshall. So if that is somewhere in Michigan or somewhere in Texas or somewhere in California, then I'm okay with that as long as she's happy and getting to enjoy college the way Allison is.
Yeah, and Amy, you said the word independent. One of our jobs as parents is to help our kids become as independent as possible by the time they leave the nest, and going to Texas would maybe do that, or at least contribute to it for sure. And going to Southern West Virginia, because that's where Marshall is, right? It's in Southern West Virginia.
Yes, it's right there with Kentucky and Ohio. It's right where all three states meet.
So I guess that's more central then.
It's right on the Ohio River.
Yes,
so
it's
the
it's the most western part of West Virginia.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, hey, I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. I learned a few things, which is always good for me or anybody for that matter. Thank you so much for doing this. And if you don't mind, if you could hang on for a second, I'm going to stop the recording.